Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Bound to Talk Volleyball. I'm your host, Blake Walker. You know who I am because I've done football if you've listened to football. I got two guests with me who I'm excited to have with me today. We have Leah Rees on the bottom, and then we have Abby Schillhorn on the right side of me. I think it'll stay like that, maybe. But we got a three-person setup, which even Paul and I didn't have for football. We are starting this mid-season for volleyball. Our volleyball knowledge was good, I'd say, but it's good to have it in the middle of the season. There's still a good chunk of the year to go. State tournament doesn't start till around Halloween is usually when we get going. Leah, Abby, good to see you. We'll see how we shake out today. Obviously, this is a new podcast for all three of us for volleyball. Let's start with just the season overall. I want to hear your thoughts about the seasons because if a little bit of background, Abby and Leah are volleyball people, to put it right, I think.
Yes.
You guys have been in charge of stats and whatnot for both 5A through 4A, 1A, 2A, 3A, whatever, for the volleyball season from the beginning. Every volleyball post you see on social media is either Abby or Leah's doing. I'll start with Abby. First of all, hi, welcome to the Bound team. You've been with us for a month now. It's been good to have you on. What has the volleyball season been like? Obviously, we've had a couple very dominant teams, and we'll talk about those very dominant teams, but seems like a pretty good year all around in the state of Iowa for volleyball.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of matches or games that have been very notable. Most recently, Dyke Hartford taking down Grundy Center. That was probably my biggest thing, I would say, and just some fluctuation between rankings that have been going on.
Leah?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to piggyback off what Abby said. I think that was a huge match that many people were invested in. And I think that both teams, really showed out and showed up. And it was exciting to see how it was going to end.
We'll talk about Dyke New Hartford later, but definitely one of the teams that no surprise has been very good. There has been a couple surprises this year. We'll start with Class 5A, where one of my surprises is. But how we're going to do it is we're going to go through our top five in our power index. So our bound power index is not the same as the IGHSAU rankings. The IGHSAU rankings are still great. Jason Islinger does a great job putting those out every week. Our power index takes nothing on court. It's obviously, there's no eye test. It's literally just statistics, player statistics, who you've played, and everything else. We'll talk about that as we go down. But most of our top five is generally the same with the girls' union. Couple changes. We'll talk about those as we go. But yeah, we're going to go top five teams in our power index for each class. We'll start with our number one in Class 5A, Dowling Catholic, 16-3 record. We'll talk about it as we go, but sixth toughest schedule in the state. That's of the entire state of Iowa. They have the sixth toughest schedule. Abby, walk me through this Dowling team. They're very good. They've returned a lot, and they're clearly on a right track here to start.
Yeah, so currently they have 207 total team blocks, and they're actually doing pretty well in Class 1A. I don't know, like their schedule rank is ranked number 6, so that's a pretty tough schedule compared to what others have been seeing the rest of the season.
And Leah, the one thing that stood out to me was they're not top in kills, but they have the top kill leader in the state of Iowa. In Class 5A, I should say.
Yeah, Mackenzie Dean, she has 235 and leads the class in kills, which is pretty impressive since they are not the top kill leading team.
Yeah, and she's set up well. Ella Rogers, 9.3 assists per set. That's per set. That's not per match. That's per set. She leads the class in assists as well. So Dowling Catholic is set up really well. They've played a very good schedule. We don't have notable wins here for 5A, but you just assume they've played each other. I mean, they've literally played all the rest of the teams in Class 5A. You expect the best out of Dowling Catholic. Their losses are to very good teams, as we'll talk about later. I think they are clearly one of the top best, but right there with them in number 2, Ankeny Centennial. I think Centennial could easily be the number 1 team, power index wise. 16-3 record as well, 9th toughest schedule in the state. Abby, you and I talked about it before we came on, but kill efficiency seems to be the big end-all, be-all when it comes to what teams are going to get to the state tournament.
Oh, yeah. Anna Sash is leading the class with .385 in kill efficiency. And like and I talked about earlier before we started recording that you may be high in kill efficiency and that'll help you get to the state tournament, but it might not be what helps you win in the state tournament.
Leah, Delaney Miller's been on a tear, 30.5 kill percentage this season. You've had the Jaguars as your team of the week a couple times this season. Is there anything that stands out?
I have. They've been consistent. Consistency is key when you keep playing a long season like volleyball. I think that Ankeny Centennial is going to keep staying in my teams of the week, and hopefully they'll be in the state tournament as well later. But I think that they will just continue to dominate.
It's ironic because this week, I don't think they will be in your team of the week because they don't play this week. They are completely off this week. It's very weird. They've played so many games right in a row. They played a huge tournament this past weekend, and I thought it was a mistype, but they legit do not play another game until the 26th. So a full 8 days until they play their next match. That's against Johnston. Clearly, I'm glad they get that break. So they must have known they were going to be very busy. But that's one of the things that really sets us off. Before we keep going, I want to ask you to this. And again, Abby and I kind of talked about it. What have you guys thought about the difference in games? Like some teams have played 25 games and some teams have only played 12 games. Do you guys think that makes a difference when you get to the state tournament? Is it a good thing to play all those games or is it a bad thing to play all those games?
I think the more games, the better. It helps, the teams with honing in on their skills and then also playing different levels, playing if you're a 1A team, playing a 3A team or a 5A, playing a high-ranked 4A, that really helps too because there's so many different ways to play the game.
Abby?
I think that it's better to play more games because the more you play, the more you kind of start realizing like what we need to work on in practice and what really needs to be honed down before you reach the state tournament, if you reach the state tournament.
It's just always interesting because you'll see teams that make it to the state tournament, they'll only have played like 20 games. And then you'll see another team that's played 45 games or something like that. Granted, you schedule tournaments and how far you go in a tournament is another big, factor in it. But I've just always thought it's an interesting question. Number 3 in our polls, Pleasant Valley, a 14-2 record. If I remember correctly, this is my big surprise. I think Pleasant Valley returned the least out of any team from the state tournament last year. Like, I think their number was almost in the 30s. 30% of the team returned. So the fact that they're able to get back to this state is pretty good. 15th toughest schedule in the state. They're winning sets by an average of 6.2, which is up there in the state. You guys both know eastern side of Iowa is very, very, very good. But I'm curious, a team that didn't return much, do we worry about these guys as they get further down the postseason? Does experience matter as much as we think it does?
I know that this is another team that I've had in my weekly top teams. And Pleasant Valley has had a dominance over the past couple of years, And so I think that their tradition will continue through, even with their younger players. It'll be interesting to watch them, though, as the postseason approaches.
Yeah, I agree with you, Leah, on that. And I'm going to piggyback off of you just a little bit. With what the coaches have and their past experiences and what their goals are from their previous seasons, I think that will translate to this season, and I think that'll help them get to the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to see both those, or see Pleasant Valley. I'm eager, and they're just one of those teams that it doesn't seem like it's a rebuild. It's just a reload. And that's what a lot of teams like to use. Ankeny, number 4, 16-7 record. Don't let the 7 losses fool you. That's what we're learning. This team has the second toughest schedule in the entire state. They're leading the class in blocks with 234 and digs at 846. Leah, they seem to have a two-headed monster running the block category over there at Ankeny.
Oh, yeah, they do. They got Ava Willie, who has 62 blocks herself, and Regan Hanflett, who has 58 blocks. I mean, that's quite a few blocks for just 2 people.
Abby, talk to me about their serve successes. Serve success goes way under the radar because you can win a lot of games just based off your serve success.
Oh, yeah. You have to get the ball over the net 4 even plays to begin. So they lead the class with 1,136. That is
It's a
phenomenal
lot.
for serve successes compared to what we have seen in other classes and what we have seen in the past. So they're getting the ball and they are putting it down, I would say.
I think it's almost 150 more than the next team in Lions, somewhere around there. Granted, they've played a lot of games. That can't go understated. They've played 24 games, but yeah, or 23. I can't do math. But yeah, I think they are a phenomenal team to keep an eye out for. Last team in 5A, Cedar Falls, 14-2. 24th toughest schedule in the state. So not quite up there, with the rest of these teams, but good representation out of the state. Leah, I'll let you take the third stat. Abby, you can take the fourth.
Yeah, so like you said, the eastern side of Iowa continues to dominate in volleyball. Cedar Falls shows that as they're ranked 4th in the class with assists at 503. So I mean, they're still working.
They're getting there, yeah.
And then they are also ranked 5th in the class with kills with 526, and Paige Pop is leading their team with 212.
Almost half. Sets you up pretty well. I wish heights, we can go in and look at heights, but I am so curious about heights every single time in volleyball, because sometimes you'll have your kill or block leader. You're thinking, oh, they're 6'1", 6 foot, when really they're just like 5'8", 5'7". Like it's astonishing how these girls can do it. Yeah, it's phenomenal. So there's your top 5 in class 5A. Out of those 5 teams, I'll put you guys on the spot. We'll do this for every class. Out of those 5 teams, who do you think has the best chance to win it all?
I'm going to go with Ankeny Centennial. I think they continue to dominate every week, week in, week out, and hopefully that pays off in the long run for them.
I'm going to have to agree with Leah with Ankeny Centennial.
And you know what? I'm going to choose Ankeny Centennial as well. I just think last year was just so, I don't know if you guys saw, but they had a match against Iowa City Liberty at the state tournament that was so unbelievably good. And I just watching them, I'm like, even though they lost, I was like, this team is going to go back. I mean, they're just so good. They totally are feeling that loss last year. This is just, it feels like a team of destiny for Ankeny Centennial. So I'm glad we all agree. Maybe we'll get more interesting as the class goes down. Probably not, now that I think about it, but just, something to think about. I think Centennial, we all agree, is the top. And speaking of the top, I think we're looking at arguably one of the best non-Dyke New Hartford dynasties we've seen. And it's not even really a dynasty. It just worked out in their favor. Clear Creek Amana is by far and away the best team in the state. I'll put that above. I think they're better than Dyke New Hartford. We can have that conversation later maybe, but Clear Creek Amana 21-0. I had a post about it. They've only lost, oh gosh, I might have to go back on the post. I think not even 10 sets all season or something like that. They have notable wins against Dowling and Ankeny, both in Class 5A. Leah, they're led by really their star, Bliss Beck.
Bliss Beck, yeah. I mean, she continues to dominate again this year. Her and Avery Lauer have a combined 313 of the team's 525 team kills, which is 60%. And she also is number 5 in the state in kills with 177. She has the second highest total blocks with 47, and she's first in kill efficiency with 483. That's pretty impressive.
Abby, that's what gets me, and maybe that gets you too. How many times do we see people lead in blocks almost lead in kills?
You don't. You really don't. It's kind of a Bliss Beck. Right now, I'm going to compare her to Harper Murray of Nebraska, actually. Harper Murray is kind of a big deal right now in college volleyball. I'm going to compare her to her because Harper Murray is a double-edged sword. Like, she will block the ball, and she will throw it right back at you. She will kill that ball. And I'm going to say Bliss Beck is exactly what Harper Murray is.
Yeah, she's been absolutely phenomenal. This team has been absolutely phenomenal. Like, they're just running through every single team they face. it's going to be tough to stop them. They returned a ton from last year. I think almost close to 90% of their team came back from last year's state tournament team. So they just set themselves up well. They're in a really tough conference with teams that we'll talk about later on down the line. So keep an eye out for Clear Creek Amana, because I could see them going undefeated. Honestly, I think a true undefeated season. And in Class 4A, that's almost unheard of. So shout out to the Clippers.
They've been fun to watch and follow.
Yeah, that's they're going to be the team to watch when we get to the state tournament. Indianola right behind them at the Little Hawkeye Conference, 19-2 record. Abby, run me through a couple of things that stand out off the page for Indianola.
So they lead the class with service aces in 133. Tori Runnin is second in the class with assists with 517. And Aspen Nelson is tied first in the class with service aces with 37. A couple notable wins have been against our quote-unquote state champion that we have picked, Ankeny Centennial, and they have lost against Ankeny Centennial. They have beaten North Tama and Norwalk, so they're also a team to watch in Class 4A.
I think, Leah, one thing that stands out about Indianola is they play a lot of 5A schools because they're almost a 5A school, honestly. You think that helps a lot, especially going toward the postseason? Obviously, a couple of smaller classes do the same thing, but it's a big school in a big school environment.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, playing more games or less games, which is better. And I think for Indianola, the more games against the higher classes is better for them. Even though they have 2 losses, it's one of those things where their losses weren't terrible losses. They were against good quality teams. And I'm sure they learned from those games as well.
And I guess both of you, we touched on it earlier, but leading in service aces cannot go understated. I mean, if people listening don't know much about volleyball, that basically means that they are getting it over the net, the first hit, and nobody's touching it. Like, that's an art. That's not easy.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to place the ball right, and the coaches and the players have to connect, because sometimes the coaches will show where the ball needs to go, and if the players connect, then they're lucky they'll get that ace.
And I've called games where games are won on service aces, and it doesn't seem like it should be, but and in my time of playing one night of powder puff volleyball, I just service aces are a huge part of the game that I myself was really good at. So we'll see what happens. I knew I had to throw in my powder puff volleyball experience. That was one of the most fun nights of my life. So we'll jump to third in Class 4A. It's ADM, 16-1 record for ADM. Leah, run me through. They also have a 2-headed monster in blocks.
Yeah, they do. They're leading the class in solo blocks with 64. Marissa Gleerman has 21, and Madison Seakiff has 18. They're working up at the net there. They also have notable wins against Norwalk, North Polk, and Des Moines Christian.
We'll talk about Des Moines Christian in a little bit. North Polk, very good. Norwalk, very good. That's a good conference. The Raccoon River Conference, North Polk, Ballard, all those teams. The blocks is interesting because solo blocks is different than total blocks because there are assisted blocks. When 2 girls go up for it, it's hard to understate how tough solo blocking is.
Right. Because, on a solo block, that can hit the player's hand and go out of bounds, and then the other team gets a point, Things like that happen.
I think that's just the crazy thing is that there's 2, but they could be doing it together, but most of the time they're doing it solo. Abby, would you agree?
I would say so. Yeah, they have to have the confidence to go up there and know that, hey, I'm going to put the ball right back down on that opposite side of the court. So they have to have the confidence to go up there and do it by themselves. And if they have a teammate with them, that's just double the chances.
So keep an eye out for Gerleman and Siefkin when it comes to the state tournament, because they're going to be a very fun duo to watch. Lewis Central at number 4. They're an interesting team. They've only played 12 games, 11-1 record, third in the class though in kill efficiency with a .277. We've talked about how important that is. Their notable win, they really only have one, and it's Glenwood, but they've lost in Centennial. The good thing for them is their schedule gets tougher. I'll come back and give it both the question to you. Your strength of schedule might not be great, but are you still helping yourself with a not great strength of schedule? Do wins mean as much when you get to the state tournament, even if they're not over the most amazing opponents?
That's a tough one, because in each class is so different. But I think that, if you have a tougher schedule, it's going to help you in the long run in the postseason.
Yeah. Abby?
Yeah, I think when you talked about wins, I don't think the wins really matter because when the postseason comes around, it's basically turning your schedule back to 0-0. So I don't really think that the wins matter, but with a tougher schedule, that'll help you in the long run.
Well, in some cases, winning feels contagious. We've seen teams make it to the state tournament that haven't beaten anyone, but just because they've been winning, they're like, well, it doesn't matter. We'll play whoever we want. We're just good at winning. And I know you can't decide your schedule. Your schedule is decided for you. Granted, you schedule it, out in the distance, but you know how good teams are going to be. So I think it's an interesting conversation to think about. But Lewis Central sets up well. Their schedule will get tougher. They'll get tested more as the season goes on. Abby, did you have something?
No.
Okay, I thought you were going to talk.
No.
Final team in Class 4A, Cedar Rapids Xavier, 14-3 record. This team I always come back to because they play tough schools. They play tough schools all year long. They're Cedar Rapids Xavier. Abby, run me through a couple things about Xavier that make them probably one of the teams that, despite being fifth, probably need to keep an eye out on.
So they're fifth in the class with kill efficiency with .259. Some notable wins are against North Scott, which are 2, and Marion. So just that whole Cedar Rapids area is kind of a difficult place to play volleyball because there's some really big schools in there that can play the game pretty well.
And Leah, experience is everything. We've talked about that. They're not most of the players from the state championship team a couple of years ago aren't there, but I assume you'd think that still gives you quite a bit of momentum just to say, hey, this team has been here in the past. We know what our history is. It's easier to keep that legacy up going.
Oh, for sure. I think that those past players, they set the bar for the current players, and those current players are just chasing after that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think Xavier is one of the top teams. I don't think we have to ask, but who do we think is going to win the title out of 4A teams? I think we're all saying Clear Creek Amana. How about this? I'll go second best. Who do you think is the team that gives them the highest challenge?
Oh, I think all of them get
Xavier.
money.
Oh my gosh, you can't say all of them.
But I see Indianola. Indianola's been really consistent too this year.
Abby?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Indianola. With that win against Centennial, I think they'll give Clay Creek Amana a little bit for the run of the round.
I'll go off experience. I think Xavier. I think Xavier is very good. Their schedule is just tough. I mean, it's just very good. So I'll go with Xavier as one of the top. But like I said, Amana can go undefeated. I don't see any reason why they can't. So good for them. Go down to Class 3A, Western Christian. This, I don't know about you guys. This is just kind of a weird team. Like, it's almost like we poked the bear, beat Dike New Hartford in the 2A title game, and then we ran away. And we're saying, all right, we're not going to play you guys again. We'll go up to a class and still dominate. They are 11-5, but don't let the record fool you. They have not lost to an in-state team. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they lost to an in-state team last year. I'll have to go back and check, but I don't think they lost to an in-state team last year. They have 4 losses to Nebraska schools and 1 loss to a South Dakota school. Their notable wins aren't great. I will say that. Cherokee Washington's really their only good notable win. And Maggie Van Scheppen has 239 assists. But Leah, I'll start with you. I mean, even if you graduated or not, you beat the best team in a dynasty that the state has ever seen in Dike New Hartford last year. That's going to carry over to this year.
Yeah, I would think so. That was such a fun game to watch last year. Kind of like how we talked about with Cedar Rapids Xavier, like that tradition should stay there. The bar's been set, and they're going to try to go do it again and win another state title.
Abby, any thoughts on the Wolfpack?
Well, maybe if they play like they did against Dike New Hartford, they're going to be a very difficult team to beat when it comes to the state tournament.
And maybe it's just me, but I feel like their target is bigger despite not being in the same class, because if I'm a 3A school and I see this 2A school come up, I'm like, well, we just can't let them boss us around. Like we can't, a team jumps up, like we got to show them what 3A volleyball is about. We got to show them that level. So I think that's another big part of Western Christian doesn't have it easy this year. I think it's pretty easy to say that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Number 2, Mount Vernon, the Mustangs out of the WAMAC Conference, 14-1 record. I'm going to assume their only loss is Clear Creek Amana. We didn't have that down. Oh, Dike New Hartford. Sorry. Their only loss to Dike New Hartford. They have wins over Des Moines Christian and Center Point Urbana. Third in the class in kill efficiency with .320. This is another team, guys, that just gets there every single year, and they seem to be on the right path again this year.
Yeah, they have a great tradition as well in their program.
I think I'm excited to see how they shape out because, like I said, they get there a lot. You only lost to Dike New Hartford. I mean, that's not a loss in some people's books. I mean, that's just a really good game. CPU is really good, and they challenge themselves because their conference is so tough. And conferences are another big thing. You can't control how good your conference is going to be, but it sets yourself up well in the long run. We've been talking about Des Moines Christian, Leah. Run me through Des Moines Christian. I think this team is sneaky good.
I think so too. They post up a 16-3 record right now. Haley Hardson is third in the class in serve aces with 36. The team is fifth in the class for kill efficiency with a .296. And some of their notable wins include against North Scott and Knoxville. And then their losses include ADM, Dike New Hartford, and Mount Vernon. So
those are pretty good losses.
Those losses are still against really tough teams.
And Abby, for teams, I mean, Des Moines Christian losing to Mount Vernon, you almost don't want to. You want to beat everybody, but for Mount Vernon, now you have a target on your back because you beat a previous team. Like now, if you meet in the state tournament, guess what? They've seen you before.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I would say that's kind of a tough situation to be in because it's harder to beat a team twice, 3 times, 4 times. So I feel like Mount Vernon's got that big target on their back when it comes to possibly seeing Des Moines Christian in the state tournament.
I really like this Des Moines Christian team. I just think their notable wins, North Scott's a very good team, and the losses. I mean, I get losses suck, but they're good losses, if you will. So I give an advantage to Des Moines Christian in that aspect. Number 4, New Hampton, kind of a weird team. They don't really lead in anything statistically, but they're getting the job done. 17-2 record. Notable wins over Sumner Fredericksburg twice and Charles City twice. I think this looks like one of those teams, guys, that might get to the state tournament, but your toughest challenge might come at the state tournament.
I agree. Like you said, they're not a team that leads statistics like these other teams are leading. I think that they may have a tough road to state in order to get there.
Molly Wegner leads the team at assists, 237 assists. It's not top 5, but it's got to be close. That's still a very good amount for Molly, so shout out to her. Another good team that I like. I think 3A might be overall the most competitive, maybe besides 5A, but I really enjoy 3A. Assumption, 18-4. Abby, run me through an Assumption team that, again, like Xavier, plays a lot of good opponents every single year, and they're always going to make it to the state tournament.
Yeah, so Ella Deer is first in the class with kill efficiency with .498, which
that's insane.
That is insane.
That's and half. Team, okay, let's put that into perspective real quick. Half the time she's hitting the ball over the net, she's scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
So you got to have a good block up there for something to even happen with that. Also, their team leads the class with kill efficiency with .341, and some notable wins are over Dubuque Senior, Sumner Fred, Solon, and Marion.
I think, Leah, this team reminds me a lot of Xavier in almost every aspect of the way. I'm probably going to pick them as my team that could totally go up and beat Western Christian because they're just you play tough opponents. You're going to know what you're going to see at the state tournament.
Yeah, no, they do have another team that continues to repeat itself year after year with greatness. I'm going to have to say that my team out of this class is going to be Mount Vernon.
Good pick. I like the schedule, and I like the loss to Dike New Hartford. I think it's a good loss. Abby, what about you?
Oh gosh, I'm kind of in a toss-up between Mount Vernon and Assumption, but I'm gonna have to say Mount Vernon because that loss to Dyke New Hartford, that probably helped them figure out what they needed to work on, and that was kind of giving them a challenge for what they could see in the state tournament.
And I will say, we haven't talked about Western Christian a ton when it comes to that because I think we just assume they're going to be fine. 5 losses, but to out-of-state opponents. We don't know how good those out-of-state opponents were, but they clearly were good. I get it. Their notable wins haven't been as good, but as we have seen on our power index and as the girls union has stated, they haven't slipped a beat. I mean, they look good. They're going to be just fine. I just think, in-state wise, they'll beat you up. They just can't,
Yeah.
out-of-state opponents, they challenge themselves, and credit to their coaches for doing so. So do you guys agree 3A might be close? Granted, we're going to talk about 2A, but 3A is very competitive this year.
Yeah, 3A has been one of the classes that I consistently have top teams every week. They have a tough class.
Yeah. I think it'll be a fun road to watch here as we go along. We'll move on to Class 2A, where our other, technically, I'd still say it's a dynasty, even though they lost last year in the championship game. It's still a dynasty. Dyke New Hartford is number 1, avenging their 2A title loss last year, which I'm sure I will say it if I have to call their game. There's no way. I just giving a respect to all the other teams. I don't see how Dyke New Hartford loses this year in the championship or loses at the state tournament. Leah split here with Abby. Talk a little bit about Dyke New Hartford.
Yeah, Dyke New Hartford's still undefeated at 23-0 right now. Some of their notable wins include against Dowling Catholic, Ankeny Centennial, Mount Vernon, and Grundy Center, who were some of our top teams in all the other classes.
Literally, yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the Peterson sisters. What aren't they doing for Dyke New Hartford? So
It's unbelievable.
You're right.
yeah, Jaden and Peyton have 77% of the team's kills with 477 out of 679. That's a two-headed monster right there. So whatever the teams on the opposite side are trying to do, they have to focus on them if they want to try to take down Dyke New Hartford, but that's going to be difficult. They both combine with 275 digs, and Jaden leads the team in aces with 28, and Peyton has 17.
It's amazing because they're shaping up. They look exactly like last year. I mean, they didn't lose a lot. Like, they look exactly like they did last year, but then they went out and lost in the championship game. I hate to say it. I think they had the biggest target on their back out of anyone because, Western Christian, Dyke New Hartford had won all those games in a row. Western Christian comes in and says, well, we can handle it. I don't see a world where they lose. It's almost one of those things that if I'm giving a percentage, I give 99.9% chance they win it all again. A team like this, that loss is seared into your brain.
I agree.
I don't know. I just think I think the class is good. Don't get me wrong, but you read it off just nonchalant, Leah. You were like, "Yeah, wins over Dowling, Centennial." Like that's 5A teams. Those are our two, like you said. Those are our 5A. That's the top 2 teams in 5A. Like,
yep.
We cannot underestimate and we can't understate how good this Dyke New Hartford team is. All, by the way, they're really fun to watch. Like, I think everybody should go out to the state tournament and watch. Go out and watch Dyke New Hartford because they are so fun. They're so quick. They dive all over the floor, and we only get one more year of Peyton Peterson. So, I think we just got to enjoy it while we can.
Yeah.
Number 2, coming off a loss to Dyke New Hartford, and they had lost to Denver. 25-2 record. That's the Grundy Center Spartans. They just lost this past week to Dyke New Hartford. Notable wins over South Hardin, Union twice, Ankeny Christian. Can't let that one go past you because Ankeny Christian is very good. And they do have a win over Denver. So they split with Denver. Ellery Luring, second in the state with assist at 529. I mean, what are you doing, girl? 27 games, which, by the way, is, I think, the most out of anyone in the top 5 that we've given out, like in general, top 5s. Leah, a couple other players are also standing out for Grundy Center.
Yeah, they are. Carly Willis leads the state with 351 kills and is number 4 in kill efficiency with a .427. And then Paige Venega is number 2 in serve success with 261. and serve attempts with 277. I mean, those are some pretty big numbers they're putting up.
Abby, you've put this team, and I think Leah has too, as one of your teams of the week. Obviously, losses to two very good teams, but it feels like Grundy Center is in a position that Western Christian was last year. If anyone can beat them, it looks like Grundy Center might be the team.
Yeah, I think Grundy Center is going to give Dyke New Hartford a big run for their money. Even though they did lose to them this past week, I still think they're going to give them a good run for their money.
Trainer number 3, another one of those teams that isn't crazy when it comes to statistics leading, but that usually means that they're good all the way around. Oh, by the way, they also haven't played a ton of games, but they haven't lost. They're 12-0 on the season. Notable wins include Glenwood and Knoxville. I know they're 6th in the IGHSAU rankings. That's because they haven't played anyone or haven't played a ton of teams, but their schedule gets a little bit tougher. Haley Swanson, 28th in the Class 2A for assists. And then Nora Cons, she's a sophomore, which one of you wrote down, leads the team in kills with 82. I think leading the state into statistics is big, but Leah, I think it means just as much if you're all around good, that everybody is good at every category.
Oh, for sure. It's a team sport. It takes all 6 of those girls to keep the ball up in the air and get it on the other side. It'll be interesting to see how they keep progressing throughout the season and if they keep going in the postseason.
Abby, any thoughts on the Trainer Cardinals?
Not really off the top of my head, but like I said, they even though they haven't played a lot of games, I think if they work hard, they'll possibly make it to the state tournament.
Hinton, number 4, really weird team. They've only played 9 games this year. Like, I thought that was a typo when someone put it down, but nope, they've only played 9 games this year. Notable wins include Bishop Elon. They did beat the Crusaders, very good team. Bailey Bovey, I remember her last year. She was like leading the state and everything, and she was only a freshman. Well, she's growing up. She's just a sophomore now this year, but she's getting better. 41 blocks this season. That's ranked 10th in Class 2A. 22 solo blocks. She also leads the team in kills. Abby, another player where jack of all trades, blocks and kills.
Yeah, so she has been basically a two-headed monster, like Bliss Beck that we talked about with Claire Mana. You have to figure out a way to get past her block, but you also have to be ready and be able to dig out her kill.
And Leah, do you think Hinton's good, but is it going to come down to someone else has to help Bailey here, if they want to really take that next step?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look at this class. You have Dyke New Hartford and Grundy Center leading the class. It's going to take more than just Bailey out there to compete with those teams in the postseason.
The other team that we're going to talk about, I think, is very good. Denver, 20-5 record. They play Dyke New Hartford so much. They've lost to them twice. They've lost to Ankeny Christian and Sumner Fredericksburg, but they've beaten New Hampton, who we've talked about. They've beaten Ankeny Christian, who we're going to talk about. They've beaten Grundy Center, and then they've beaten Sumner Fredericksburg. So they've split games with Ankeny Christian and Sumner Fredericksburg, but Denver, pretty good team. Jessica Gergen leads the team with 159 kills. They lost a lot last year, so it's really cool to see the Cyclones back up and running. But, Leah, I think playing Dyke New Hartford twice, playing Ankeny Christian twice, playing Grundy Center twice, and splitting those games minus Dyke New Hartford, that's got to make you feel good as you head toward the postseason, shouldn't it?
I would think so. Denver's another one of those teams that reminds me of the teams that we keep talking about. They consistently do well. They make appearances at the state tournament often. And I think that, they have that dynasty where those past players have set the bar. The incoming players and current players are, trying to fulfill those shoes.
Abby, we'll start with you. Who has the best chance to maybe be the Western Christian and take down Dyke New Hartford this year?
I'm kind of on the fence between Denver and Grundy Center. But I'm going to have to say Grundy Center as the underdogs to take down the Goliath of Dyke New Hartford.
Leah?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm going between Grundy Center and Denver. They've already played Dyke, and I think that Dyke New Hartford is still going to be the number 1 team, but I'm going to have to go with Grundy Center as well.
I'll be different, and I truly do. I think Denver is there. I think Denver is good. It's one of those things where you play a team so many times and you're just like, we're gonna beat them once. Like, it's gonna happen. And Denver has just not been fun with Dyke New Hartford. Dyke New Hartford just hasn't been kind to Denver. And I just feel like, why not? Why not make it happen again? Why not be that team to do it? I think the Cyclones have a really good chance to get there and take down Goliath, as Abby said. So we'll jump down to Class 1A. This is one of my favorite teams. I love Ankeny Christian. Their story last year was so cool. They're just so young. Like, they don't really have a lot of older players. Like, they're just so young. And they went out and won a title last year, messed around, won a title. 11-3 record. They have 3 losses this year to Denver and then Grundy Center twice. But they have beaten Denver. And Katie Quick is very quick. Sorry, I had to say it. 266 assists this year. Leah, I think, you watched a little bit of the state tournament last year.
Yeah.
How can you not be excited about a team that is so young and is still so good?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to become one of these teams that in the future we're talking about having a legacy, as they start building and keep rebuilding their team.
Abby, what are your thoughts on the very young Ankeny Christian Eagles?
I think that as they keep maturing and getting older, that they're going to be a team that could end up being like a Dyke New Hartford and a Clark Humana in the future, but it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get there.
I think Katie Quick, she was the big standout for me last year at the state tournament. Like, of all players, I saw so many good players calling those games, but Katie was just different. I mean, her ability, her excitement, and her leadership for how young she was. I think she is, every sport in high school has the poster child, if you will, like the person you always associate the name with it. I think Katie's right up there with volleyball. Like, I always like it when the state tournament comes around and they print the programs out, and usually that poster child is sometimes the person on the front cover. I wouldn't be surprised if Katie Quick's on the cover of the poster this year, or of the program this year, because she is just that good. And Ankeny Christian is just that good. It's good to see it. It was their first ever schools championship last year as well. So you talk about a legacy, Leah. This is not a one and done school. This is we're gonna be here a while.
Yeah, they're just starting to write their book. So give them a few years.
Cool. Stanton comes in at number 2, a 13-4 record for them. They have losses to Tri-Center, Lewis Central, Bishop Heelan, and then a Nebraska school. So a couple tough losses, but another one of those teams that wins might be more helpful. Abby, they're led by Lauren Johnson, who seems to be getting things done in the kill category.
Oh, yeah, she has 143 kills, so she's putting the ball down on the floor, and she's making it known that she is.
Yeah, it's a fun team to watch. I think 1A is really interesting this year. I think Ankeny Christian is by far the best team. There's another team lower down that I think could make a run for them. Another team, River Valley, 9-1 record. They're really starting to get things figured out. Their only losses to Ridgeview. They have a pretty good double-sided effect when it comes to offense, Leah, in terms of their kills and assist category.
Yeah, they got a connection going on there between Maya Dazzle, who has 216 assists, and then Addie Law is leading the team with 112 kills.
We can't underestimate how much chemistry is a thing in volleyball. I'm sure togetherness and everything it's big, but assist to kill, if you got your duo right there, that is so important because they're going to be on the same page the whole rest of the way.
Right. I mean, out of all of Maya's 216 assists, that Addie has 112 kills is almost half there.
Yeah, it's been impressive. This is the other team, despite the record, I think could be a different type of team to maybe make a run. Boyden Hull, 10-7 record. Their 7 losses are good losses. Sioux Center twice, Mock Floyd Valley, Sioux Falls Christian, which is a South Dakota school, Ridgeview, Western Christian, and Sioux City East. This is a team that comes from a very, very difficult part of the state, like up there where you're almost going to have to play teams from other states to really get an eye out for what you got. And then Clara Hogue, 265 assists this year. I think, Abby, Boyden Hull might be one of those teams that record-wise might not look great going into the tournament, but could be the team that you got to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, they could be the underdog in the state tournament for the Class 1A, even though their record may not show it. They're playing good teams, especially they played Western Christian. Yes, they lost, but they kind of had it in a tight race up there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Boyden Hull shapes out. Leah, we got one more team left. Holy Trinity, 11-3 record. Tell us about Holy Trinity.
Yeah, Holy Trinity has losses to Indianola, Wapsie Valley, and North Tama, who we have talked about Indianola earlier. And then Presley Myers is number 2 in solo blocks with 25, tied at number 3 with kill efficiency with a .367.
I think they're a team that has gone to the state tournament recently. I think they have a very good fan base. I can tell you that. Their student section is always phenomenal. I'm excited to see how they shake out later. Holy Trinity will be a lot of fun, I think, for the most part. I wanted to quickly, before we wrap everything up, I wanted to go through the actual rankings, the top 10. I know IGHSAU gives out top 15, but we always give top 10. Some of the teams that we didn't focus, I'm going to read off the top 10, and then I want you two to give me, and I guess I'll give you guys as well, a team that we didn't talk about that I think could also make some noise. So we'll start with Class 5A. Your top 10 official for the IGHSAU rankings goes as this: Dallin Catholic first, Centennial second, Ankeny third, Waukee Northwest at 4, Johnston at 5, Cedar Falls 6, Pleasant Valley 7th, Valley 8, Sioux City East 9th, and Iowa City Liberty 10th. Who out of those sticks out as ones that we didn't talk about? I guess I'll go first on mine. I think Valley is the team that I'd like to keep an eye out for. They are really starting to pick things up here these last couple days.
I'd say mine is probably Johnston.
They're really high in a lot of statistical categories.
Yes, they are.
Abby?
Oh gosh. Mine would have to also be Johnston because they're getting up there and working hard to stay up there.
4A rankings go as such: Clear Creek Amana 1, Indianola 2, ADM 3, Xavier 4, North Scott 5th, Norwalk 6th, Lewis Central 7th, Marion 8th, Ballard 9th, Bishop Heelan 10th. I'm going to stick with the whole, they've been there before, they play tough teams. I think Bishop Heelan is one of the teams we got to keep an eye out for.
I'd say mine is North Scott. I had them in my weekly rankings not too long ago.
They play a lot of tough teams.
Yes, they do.
I would also have to say North Scott as well because they're still trying to pave the way to state tournament.
They're getting there. I mean, that they're getting there. I think they're going to be a really fun team. 3A, Western Christian 1, Mount Vernon 2, Des Moines Christian 3, Union, who we didn't talk about, is 4th, Assumption 5th, Cherokee 6th, New Hampton 7th, Solon 8th, Center Point Urbana 9th, Mid Prairie 10th. I'm going to go with Union because they're very good statistically in a lot of different categories.
Mine was going to be Union as well. I'm with you on that one, Blake.
I'm going to have to represent my area, my neck of the woods in Northeast Iowa with New Hampton. They're looking pretty good, and they're full steam ahead right now.
2A, Dike New Hartford 1, Hinton 2, Grundy Center 3, Sumner Fredericksburg 4, Denver 5th, Trainer 6th, South Hardin 7th, Kemper Catholic 8th, Ridgeview 9th, West Burlington 10th. Sumner Fredericksburg has been said a lot in this episode, and we haven't been talking about them in terms of the team. I think they got them at the right spot at number 4. They've played good teams and beat good teams. They've also lost to good teams. I think their schedule is just good enough that I think they could be a legit chance.
I agree with you on that one. I think Sumner Fred, is one to watch out for, but I also think South Hardin is up there too. We talked about them in the same way kind of as Sumner Fred. And I think that as I look through statistics and stuff every week, South Hardin continues to be up there.
Yeah, I would have to say Sumner Fred because they have played those good teams, but they also have those losses that they have to avenge. So they could reach the state tournament and really put on a show.
Finally, Class 1A, Ankeny Christian 1, North Tama at 2, Holy Trinity 3, Edgewood Colesburg at 4, Boyden Hull 5th, BCL UW 6th, Stanton 7th, AGWSR 8th, Don Bosco 9th, River Valley 10th. They were just outside of our top 5, but I don't know how you don't pick North Tama. They've been here before. They've been good here before. I think North Tama is easily one of the top teams that could compete with Ankeny Christian.
Oh, I agree with you. I was going to say North Tama as well. They also, kind of have that experience too that some of the other teams you mentioned don't.
Yeah, North Tama is at the top of my list going up against Ankeny Christian. And like Leah said, they have the experience that other teams don't.
We're about halfway through the season, about a month and a week, and then we'll start going for state tournament volleyball. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a phenomenal state tournament. This year, the field has just been great. Every single class has been really fun to watch. And we appreciate everyone for watching and listening for our first Bound to Talk volleyball episode. We'll see how this one does. We'll see if we get good feedback or if people hate us. We'll see what happens. But once we figure out if people like to see it, we might come back weekly. We might come back before the playoffs start and give possible playoff preview, playoff predictions. Either way, the volleyball post will keep up. Volleyball at state tournament will be better coverage than you've ever seen before. We'll have final score posts for every single game. We'll have player of the days, everything, the whole 9 yards. So keep an eye out for state volleyball. It truly is growing as one of the top sports in the country. And I'm glad across the country it's getting the recognition it deserves. And we'll keep giving it the recognition it deserves here in the state of Iowa. So Leah, Abby, thank you for joining me today. I don't think you guys got too red in the face or too nervous as we went through. It'll become second nature. It'll become second nature as you guys roll along. So I appreciate you guys for joining me today. We appreciate everyone for watching and listening on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, and we will see everyone next time for Bound to Talk Volleyball. Thank you all for watching.